Fam, what's going on? Kyle Henderson, Bama Football on YouTube. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much for joining me. And from the jump, I want to ask you, okay, the simple question: do you think that Dijon Lee will commit to the Alabama Crimson Tide? All right. So this young man is one of the most impactful players that is on the board right now. And when you look to recruiting, Kalen DeBoer has done a fantastic job. Okay, we're going to talk about recruiting, and I'm also going to talk about the first 5 quarterbacks that Alabama is going to face this season. That'll be on my show. So definitely stick around. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much. What's up, Patriot Life, man? Thanks for being here. And if you want to become a fan funder, definitely think about it. $2.99 to support the channel, to support me right here on YouTube. I really appreciate you guys. Patriot Life checking in early. If you're having trouble signing up, go to the homepage and there's a hyperlink at the top. You hit the hyperlink, $2.99. I appreciate you guys. When you look to a prospect like Dijon Lee, what does he bring to the table? Well, I mean, when you look to corners that I feel that could be impactful at the college level, a couple of things that I look for are athleticism, clearly, speed, and sometimes I feel it's a little bit underrated, but I feel that an athlete, specifically if they're a corner, I like them to have a little bit of size. What's up, Adam Lanpello? I appreciate you being in, man. Thanks for joining in this morning. We're talking about Dijon Lee, who has announced that he will make his commitment on June 28th. So about a month away from a 5-star announcing. And, you know, for those of you that are wondering, when is Kalen DeBoer going to get his 5-star? When is he going to, land some 5 stars? Well, he already did that. He already brought in Ryan Williams, right? Who is probably the most coveted wide receiver in the country. I get it. And I think sometimes when you have an in-state guy, people are like, well, he's in-state. He was going to pick Alabama. Well, that's not necessarily the case. I mean, Alabama went into their backyard, and it was a dual combination. So you had Coach Saban recruiting on the front end, and you had Coach Kalen DeBoer recruiting on the back end. He even decommitted from Alabama. We're talking about Ryan Williams, right? So when you're talking about closing the door and being able to recruit 5 stars, right? Well, Coach Kalen DeBoer has already done that. So just when you're looking at this recruiting class, the 5-star prospects are going to come. Now, what's intriguing about Dijon Lee is the fact that he's a prospect out of California, and Alabama has certainly gone into California before and done their job in terms of recruiting. But you have a prospect out of Mission Viejo. If you know anything about high school football, you know that's a talent-rich area. Mission Viejo has been sending out prospects to college football for decades, right? And right here, you see on his top 4 to the right, you have Alabama, USC, Washington, Georgia. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily the case in terms of the schools that are actually among his top 4, because when I look to recruiting sites and you look to the schools that are really in the mix in terms of landing Dijon Lee, I think that there's a couple other schools that could be in play. And from my understanding, he's going to take his visits, and then he will make his decision, which is understandable. I think when you look at the visits that Dijon Lee is going to take, that gives us a better idea of his top 5 schools. Now, I think you have, Alabama, Georgia, Washington. Those schools seem to be really up in the mix. And I think that, maybe schools like Texas and Texas A&M could also be in play. Chad Simmons of On3, and On3 is having their Elite Series right now, said that 5-star Dijon Lee is set to announce his commitment on June 28th. Okay. Will it be Alabama, Georgia, Texas, Washington, Texas A&M? He has an article talking about Dijon Lee. In fact, Dijon Lee is out in Nashville at the On3 Elite event. So when I look to what each of these schools could potentially be pitching, I don't think it's going to be Washington. I don't think it's going to be Texas A&M. Even if Texas A&M was to completely throw the new bag, that's a foundation that is trying to be rebuilt. I get it. They have endless money, but if you're a corner, do you really want to go right now to a program that is kind of in the beginning of rebuilding their program? And that's kind of how I see Texas A&M. Washington, I don't see them as a threat, even though he is on the West Coast. So then to me, it's down to Alabama, Georgia, and Texas. Well, I think Texas, for some reason, I feel that even though they are able to, from what it sounds like, I mean, even listening to some of the interviews, like Jamie French said that he likes the idea that Texas can facilitate facilitate Lamborghinis and that they have a dealership with Lamborghinis. I don't think the guys are getting Lamborghinis. They're probably getting, leased Lamborghinis to drive around Austin, which does sound fun if you're 18, 19 years old, right? And take a drink of this coffee. So Georgia can clearly sell itself. So in my mind, I kind of feel like it's a 2-horse race between Georgia and Alabama, and here's why. And we're talking Dijon Lee right here on Bama Football on YouTube. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much for being a fan funder of this YouTube channel. $2.99. I appreciate you guys. Hit the hyperlink above the YouTube video. You'll see where it says join. It should say join inside the comment box as well. I appreciate you guys. I feel that this is down between Alabama and Georgia for a couple reasons. Let's talk about Georgia. All right. Everything that Georgia has going on right now in terms of the momentum that they have, they've won their last 30 out of 31 games. They're a program that has clearly been able to win a national championship. Kirby Smart is a defensive-minded coach, and Kirby Smart is doing things to replicate or try to replicate what Alabama has done, right? You've seen him bring over former coaches. You've seen him at a barbershop, right? You've seen them add the red lights. I still don't know who had the red lights first, which program, right? Alabama or Georgia. I think Georgia was able to use their lights first, but you get what I'm saying. I also feel that Travaris Robinson is a very good defensive backs coach, secondary coach that prospects want to play for. Okay, so I think Georgia clearly can make a run at Dijon Lee. But I think on the opposite side, when you're recruiting for Alabama, you look at several key factors, and I get it. There's just been a marquee, more than marquee, a significant coaching change. But what has not changed here is the brand of Alabama football. And what has not changed has been the ability to send guys to the next level. And Coach Kalen DeBoer, I mean, it was interesting. Like, the limelight was still on Coach Saban during the NFL draft. You sent, so many guys to the NFL once again, but so did Coach Kalen DeBoer. So I saw that night as, while the limelight was on Coach Saban, I think Coach Kalen DeBoer can develop players as well. If he can develop players at Washington, and that's no disrespect to the prospects at Washington, this is a different caliber of prospects that he's going to be working with already here at the University of Alabama. So I think when you look about development in the long term, that's something that Dijon Lee has to think about. And compounding on that, look, Colin Hitchler, I think, is going to be a great addition. And I don't want to be like I'm sleeping on him in terms of a coach that coaches the secondary. But I really, honestly, like deep in my heart, feel that Mo Lindquist is going to be such a great addition, already is, to the University of Alabama. And I think that prospects are going to want to, play for him, but understand, I mean, I got it. And I've talked to him, I don't know, 2 or 3 times, that this man is a different type of coach. And what I mean by that is he's a coach who's coached in the NFL. He was coached in college, who sent guys to the ultimate, right? The NFL. He worked with Trayvon Diggs. So, and he just kind of has that energy. I think Jamarcus Shepard has that energy on offense, and I think Mo Lindquist has that energy on defense. And I think, head to head, it's going to be a hell of a battle. T-Rob, talking up Georgia and what Georgia's done, and Mo Lindquist and Coach Kalen DeBoer and the full court press on Dijon Lee. This prospect is dynamic. He is a 5-star, and ever since the word, I'm kind of surprised to see that I would probably have him a little bit higher. But I guess we'll have to see what happens with Dijon Lee. Let me ask you inside the comment box. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're trying some different things, Matt Farms. Got to pay the bills, man. Members only mode. Got to pay them. So appreciate you guys being here and becoming members of Bama Football on YouTube. Thank you so much, man. Now, I don't have a salary job from On3 or Rivals. This is YouTube. That's it. That's the only form of revenue. So everybody's got to work. And, we all, like the live shows. I mean, you guys watch them. There you go. That's how, pay the bills. So appreciate you, Patriot Life, for coming in with the 20 spot. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it. All right. So when we look to this recruiting class for Alabama, and what we're going to talk about today, we opened the show talking about Dijon Lee, a prospect who is announcing his commitment on June 28th. Okay, so write it down on your calendar that you have June 20th. June 28th as your date. Okay, so let's kind of zoom out and look at Coach Kalen DeBoer. And right now he is forecasted to Alabama. I would imagine there's probably been a couple guys that have put predictions in, but in terms of I would imagine it's much closer. Like, I don't think he's an absolute lock to Alabama, because I think these schools are all going to have their pitch when it's all said and done. I use On3 interface just because I like it. I've talked about that before. Let's talk about Alabama's class of 2025. Yeah, that's it, man. Yeah, you got to check the ID, man. Hey, you know, we obviously, you guys know we had to tighten up around here, you know, so we're doing that, you know, and this is my baby. This is my business. This is how I put food on the table. And, you know, this is what we got to do in the lives. So it's all good. And it's nice. We got like the members only. It's good. And if you want to become a member, $2.99. All right, to support the YouTube channel. Okay, let's zoom in on this class of 2025 with what Coach Kalen DeBoer has right now. Okay, Daryl Johnson, he's in out of Georgia, and keep this in mind when I'm talking about this recruiting class. Okay, keep it. What's up, Smooth? I appreciate you being here, man. Thank you so much. Keep in mind when we're looking at this class of 2025, look regionally where we're at. And what I mean by that is that'll give you a good idea of what Coach Kalen DeBoer is able to do. And I think he's been able to recruit nationwide from the jump, which says a lot about his overall personality, but most importantly about his staff. Okay. All right. So, and this is early and this is going to grow, right? I'll zoom in so you can see the names a little bit more. Daryl Johnson out of Georgia. So you go into the home state of Georgia. Clearly, we know the perimeter is set up around Georgia because of the success that the Bulldogs have had, right? And everybody recruits the state of Georgia. There's so many prospects out of that state. The Peachtree pumps out prospects. Okay, look, I talk about Alabama all the time. Head to head, Georgia has better prospects than Alabama. Not trying to start a war here. That's just how it is. Daryl Johnson out of Georgia, 4-star prospect out of Eastman, Georgia, 4-star and the number 8 overall player in the state. Okay, you got him locked in. Derek Smith. This is an interesting one because I was talking to a couple of my workout pals, and we were talking about prospects out of Selma. In fact, one guy lives in Selma, and he's like, damn, he's like, there's a prospect out of Selma coming to Bama. And I was like, yeah. And this young man is a baller, like absolute baller. And that is Derek Smith, who is a 4-star, the number 4 overall player in the state of Alabama. So you have Georgia, Alabama, and it is vital, absolute vital every single year to take care of your own backyard for recruiting. And Coach Kalen DeBoer did that from the jump. Ryan Williams, Antonio Coleman, right? And then also getting Derek Smith. If you guys haven't watched Derek Smith's highlight tape, I mean, we'll have to run it on here sometime because this man is dangerous. Okay. All right, we continue. All right, this is the class of 2025, and I'm talking about like how this could impact Dijon Rogers from the West Coast, whose decision is up on June 28th. You also have Anthony Turbo Rogers. Okay, this guy was at the IMG Academy. This guy is fast as lightning. Okay, ultra fast, ultra talented, and he's a 4-star prospect. Okay, he's the number 11 overall player in the state of Alabama. He actually moved back to Alabama. He will be at Montgomery playing at Carver this coming season. So he's 11th player overall, and I'm kind of surprised to see, well, two things. He's the number 11 overall player in the state. This guy, has anybody seen him? Man, he's certainly dynamic, 100%. Turbo, that's his name too. It's Turbo. All right. Antonio Coleman, as I talked about, he was one of the first flips for Coach Kalen DeBoer, right? He was committed to Auburn of all places, and then flips. And I'm sure that, him being from Saraland and Ryan Williams, him reclassifying, that probably had a little bit to do with that. But I thought that was a really good addition as well, adding Antonio Coleman. You also have Jaden Harmon. He's in from Rome, Georgia. Rome, Georgia is another place. It's like a talent-rich area. And then Abdul Sanders came in. He's from the West Coast, right? Mater Day. You have programs like Mission Viejo, Mater Day. These programs are going to pump out elite talent. So when you have Abdul Sanders, who committed back in the springtime to Alabama, I think that shows that you still retain ties to the West Coast. Okay, Zamir Smith. Look where he's from, Maryland. So we just went from Abdul Sanders out in Los Angeles to Maryland. You know who's guarding Maryland, their territory, is Coach Loxley, right? It's hard to pry prospects out of the DMV area because Coach Locks has such a good hold on them. I mean, Latier Brooks. Have you guys seen this guy, Latier Brooks? This guy was pumping out over 400 pounds the other day on squat. I mean, this guy has speed to burn. Probably one of the fastest players in the country. 5'9.5", 170 pounds, out of New Jersey. So he just went from Los Angeles to Maryland to New Jersey. And Luke Metz. This is another prospect. This is going to be interesting to watch, okay? Because Luke Metz, he is an inside linebacker out of Georgia. And he's a 3-star prospect on looks like all services, but he was just offered by Georgia, right? So it's going to be interesting to see if Alabama can retain Luke Metz. Luke Metz seems like he loves Alabama. It seems like he's completely bought in. He loves the brand, but he's going to get late offers, and I would imagine maybe he bumps up to a 4-star by all said and done. And then you have Miles Johnson, the number 21st player in the state of Alabama, out of Brewton, Alabama. And so that's kind of your class of 2025 so far. When we look at the overall rankings, and we'll zoom out and look kind of where prospects are. Look, don't get caught up in where the teams are at this point in time. There's a lot of recruiting left, and one of the reasons to not get excited is because we're only in May. I've been following this so long. What's up, Lynn? I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. Matt Farms, I know. Yeah, that guy is crazy inside the weight room. And Maddie's saying, no flip that you got Luke coming to Bama. All right. Feel good about that. All right. So these are the current recruiting rankings for the class of 2025. Okay. So you have Ohio State, who has 3 5-stars. And that's kind of why we're also talking about Dijon Lee, is people are like, where are the 5-stars in this class? They will probably come. Okay. You're going to get 2, 3, I would imagine. I don't know who, but I would, they're going to come. Ohio State has 3, and they've been recruiting well. Ohio State has been doing every single thing well. I'm not surprised to see this. 3 5-stars, 4 4-stars, 12 total commitments. Okay. LSU, Brian Kelly, he's doing a good job recruiting. Coach Saban's had a lot of positive things to say about Brian Kelly. I'm not surprised to see it as well. 2 5-stars, 8 4-stars. USC, this one's a little bit surprising. They had, I think, a really hot April. I mean, look, I think it was an added benefit for USC to now leap into the Big Ten. I think the Pac-12, for whatever reason, just made their defense pretty much non-existent. But I think this will be better for their program because now they're going to have to play a more well-rounded game to be able to consider an elite program, because they will be exposed if they can't play defense. That's another video for another time. Okay, Clemson has a 5-star, 8 prospects. Notre Dame, Georgia has 1. Oregon has 1. And here's Alabama with no 5-stars just of yet, and 8 4-stars and 2 3-stars. So look, it's early. It's May. I've been covering, recruiting to where we've been in April and there hasn't even been, more than 5 committed prospects. And that was a year. What was that, like 3 years ago? And Alabama ended up number 1 in the recruiting rankings. Okay. So that's kind of a snapshot of where things are in terms of recruiting for the Alabama Crimson Tide. If you want to become a fan funder of this YouTube channel to contribute inside the members only comment box, $2.99. We appreciate you guys. It's at the top of this video. Thank you so much for joining Bama Football on YouTube. I appreciate you guys. What's up, Jarvis? Appreciate you being here, man. Good morning. And you're right. And see, that's the thing to think about when you're looking at these rankings, okay? And Jarvis, you're absolutely right. I think that Alabama will, they always make a late run, right? Because the brand kind of starts to build itself. But specifically this year, more than anything, is like, I think during the month of June, that Alabama will be able to showcase its facilities, their assistant coaches, their plan of action that they're going to take forward. Therefore, prospects that haven't got a chance to really see Alabama hosting its own visitors. I get it. Like April, prospects came in April. It wasn't the same as it was now. Like things are completely now set up under Coach Kalen DeBoer. That time, it was like a house in transition. We've talked about that analogy before. Now for June, I think things will really go well for Alabama. JS, what's up, man? Appreciate you. Plus, we make 3 and 4 stars better. Well, look, when you talk about rankings too, and what's up, JS? I appreciate you. Like, okay, Drake Kirkpatrick Jr. was a 3-star. He's not playing like a 3-star. I mean, he's playing more like a 4-star. I mean, the way that he was able to play during the spring game, and even during the Mississippi Alabama game, he played better than a 3-star. So who knows? Yeah, did you see this as well? We'll shift gears in a second and talk about quarterbacks that Alabama's facing in this first 5 games of the season. But Tyler Buchner, what a ride he's had, right? This guy came to Alabama. And look, it wasn't like he wasn't the guy. And I get it. Maybe Tommy Rees and him like had false expectations about getting here. He wasn't going to play. Okay, whatever. He transfers back to Notre Dame. And so we started, we found this out, when you're finding out information about Tyler Buchner. He was one of the top lacrosse players in the entire country, like highly rated, like even when he was like in 8th grade, goes back to Notre Dame and he wins a national championship. So good for him. And honestly, he seems like a good kid, right? I don't even know if he's 21 years old yet. Okay, let's switch gears real quick and talk about the first 5 quarterbacks that Alabama is going to face. I started thinking about this yesterday, and I was like, okay, kind of going down the list about the like Alabama's roster. You know how we like to talk rosters right here on Bama Football on YouTube. And then I was like, who are the top? Who are the first 5 Alabama opponents? Who will they play? Who are the best teams from those teams? And who are their quarterbacks? And then I started digging into it, and I was like, this is pretty interesting. This would be worth bringing up to the show. So, okay, the first quarterback that Alabama will face, okay, stay with me here, is TJ Finley. Okay, so let me see if I can close. Okay, let's see if that looks a little bit better for you. Here we go. All right, I do this all on the fly, so it's like operating like an octopus. Okay, so the first 5 quarterbacks. Let's start with number 1. Okay, this is TJ Finley of Western Kentucky. This is a name that has been, he's transferred a bunch of times. So 2 things about TJ Finley: Western Kentucky, Alabama, first game of the season, 6 p.m. ESPN. Okay, he's a redshirt junior. He was at Texas State. He was at Auburn. He was at LSU. Okay, out of Louisiana. He is 6'7" and 240 pounds. Okay, guy is a monster. And I believe that Alabama, let's see, I think Alabama played TJ Finley, LSU, right? I think, that was back, let's see. What year was that when TJ Finley went against Alabama? All right, was that in 2020? Was that the COVID year? I think it was. And he was at LSU at that time. So here you have a quarterback who's now at Western Kentucky, but you have TJ Finley, who will be the first quarterback that Alabama faces. And when you kind of look to TJ Finley's bio and you start to read about him a little bit, Finley comes to Western Kentucky after stops at Texas State, Auburn, and LSU. He spent 1 season with the Bobcats and received all Sun Belt honorable mention. All right, he was on the Manning Award Watch, and he's thrown for a ton of yards throughout his career. So I think when you look to the stats and what TJ Finley is coming, look, I get it. Alabama is going to have their way with Western Kentucky. I thought I'd be able to look up his bio. But it is interesting to think about. They are playing a seasoned quarterback with TJ Finley. The guy's a monster, 6'7", 240 pounds. Okay. All right. So the next quarterback that Alabama will be facing is the South Florida quarterback. All right. So Byron Brown. That's his name. Byron Brown, USF. Okay. Okay, and I get it. Alabama's going to be the heavy favorite. Jarvis and I, he always posts, the lines for us, the early college football lines. This is the second quarterback. Okay, look, these quarterbacks are going to be tough to deal with. I get it. Look, you have a new secondary coming in, and you have all of the quarterbacks that Alabama will face are all experienced, all of them, right? So the first quarterback, TJ Finley's been all over, has experience. He's even played Alabama before. So has Byron Brown. Like, this guy, look, say what you want. I felt he was a problem last year for Alabama. 6'3", 210. Look at him. Joined the Heisman Trophy winner Jaden Daniels is the only player to post at least 3,000 yards passing and 800 yards rushing in 2023. First 3,000-yard passer in program history. USF season passing record holder, 3,200 yards in 2023. USF season passing touchdown with 26. Look, say what you want. Like, these quarterbacks coming in have experience, and will be a challenge for Alabama. I get it. Alabama's secondary will be fine, and Alabama will win both of these games. But still worth noting that Alabama will play TJ Finley and Byron Brown. Okay, so you're like, all right, so those are the two quarterbacks. And look, do you guys remember this quarterback, Byron Brown, from last year? Remember how they would just spread out their wide receivers and he would just run up the middle of the field? This guy was a tank. I don't think it was him who ran over Caleb Downs. I think it was a running back. But man, this team was a little bit more physical. And to be honest, Alex Klein as their head coach, I think is probably look, there's like that elite group right now of offensive-minded coaches. Sarkisian, Kalen DeBoer, Lane Kiffin, right? But Alex Klein, I don't know if he's in the second group or the third group of next offensive-minded coaches to come up. He's up there for sure. All right, so you have him. And then you go to, how about this guy? And this is how it's going to be, because, everybody's transferring around. And now you have Tyler Van Dyke, okay? So Tyler Van Dyke will be the third quarterback that Alabama faces. And Tyler Van Dyke, you're like, man, where has this guy been? He's been all over too. Most recently, he was at Miami. And let's see. Saw action in 11 games, made 10 starts, threw for 2,700 yards and 19 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. Look, people have different opinions about Tyler Van Dyke. The guy I think he's thrown over 7,000 yards in his career, which is a ton of experience. So TJ Finley has a ton of experience. Byron Brown, he has a ton of experience. Each of those guys have faced Alabama already. And then the third quarterback, Tyler Van Dyke, has also been a starter, and he has a lot of experience as well, right? Greg says, I like our secondary facing experienced quarterbacks from the jump. They will learn faster and be more confident in conference play. This is a spot-on post because you're absolutely right. It's better to play these experienced quarterbacks at the beginning of the season because all I do is talk about that back end of the schedule for Alabama. When you play Missouri, you play LSU, when you play Tennessee, who, by the way, will each have new quarterbacks, right? You also play Auburn, and you play Oklahoma. Now, as difficult as that back end schedule will be, this is interesting. All of those programs will have different quarterbacks at the helm. So Alabama facing the tougher the front end of their schedule has experienced quarterbacks. The back end doesn't necessarily have that. So what's going to happen is Alabama's secondary will get poised to be ready for the back end. All right, so Tyler Van Dyke will be the third quarterback. Look, I was talking about it this morning with the guys that I work out with. Look, Wisconsin is going to be a challenging game. Alabama, I think, favored by a touchdown at this point in time. It doesn't matter to me. I think going up to Camp Randall will be a challenge for Alabama. I think Alabama will eventually win. I would take that to 7. I think they'll win by 10 points, but I think it'll be gritty. I think there'll be some times where Alabama faces adversity. I think there will be times that Wisconsin has some momentum. How could they not? It's one of the most challenging places to play in the Midwest, I would imagine. I have never went to Camp Randall, but I've watched games there. I know they play physical football. This is going to be their Super Bowl. And, what's up, Al? I appreciate you, man. Al Sanders, Coach Al, what's up, man? Appreciate you being here, man. Bro, you're definitely onto something with these quarterbacks we're going to face right out the gate. The USF game is going to be more challenging than people think. Look, what South Florida will do is they will be able to, and they did this last year. It's kind of like fighting. It's kind of like boxing. They will take this all the way. They will take this game to the distance. I'm serious. They will take it 4 quarters unless something drastic happens to where there's like 2 pick sixes or something like that. I'm serious. Like South Florida will figure out a way to take this fight the distance. And I know you don't want to hear this if you're outside listening, but they will. I think they will play time of possession if they can. I think they will methodically try to move the chains. I think that quarterback will pick up a couple first downs with his legs. He's physical. They'll have a good game plan. They will want to attack Alabama's secondary in ways that Alabama hasn't thought about it yet. Look, this defensive team, and from a coaching perspective, didn't face South Florida last year. So if you're Alex Klein, who's a really damn good coach, I think you don't come into Alabama, you come in with no pressure at all because you're the team that, is the underdog. But I think he'll figure out a way to take it to the distance. I'm serious. What's up, Ronnie? I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for being here. Jarvis has it. Alabama beating Wisconsin 31-17, something like that. I could even see that, but I think that there will be times where it's like 14-14 or something like that, and the game is a little tight. So I think it's going to be challenging, but I do think that Alabama wins by, more than a touchdown. I'll say that against Wisconsin. Okay, the third quarterback. Okay, well, so you faced TJ Finley, ton of experience. Byron Brown, ton of experience. Tyler Van Dyke, ton of experience. And I was thinking, like, who's next? Well, Carson Beck, right? Carson Beck of Georgia. Okay, and he's coming back. And the thing about Carson Beck, this is another guy that has a ton of talent. And wait for this to bring up. Okay, this is the next quarterback. All right, so they kind of just progressively keep getting better on the schedule too, in terms of quarterbacks. So he's a senior, 6'4", 220. You look at what he was able to do last year as a quarterback. You look at the snapshots right here, right? 389 yards passing against Kentucky. That's when Georgia lit up the Wildcats. 29 completions against Vandy. 39 attempts against Vanderbilt. 4 touchdowns against Kentucky. 55-yard pass against Florida. Longest rush of 22. And he went head-to-head with the Alabama Crimson Tide for the SEC championship game, right? So it looks like against Alabama, he was 13 of 18 for 203 yards with 2 touchdowns. Is that right? I don't know. I'm reading this all at a fly. Let's see if I can look at the stats by the splits. And he's got a lot of playing time as well. I think if I look to the bio, let's see if I can get it this way. Stats, season 2023. Does that have by game? Okay. Yeah, against Alabama, he was 21 let's look at the last couple games of Carson Beck. He was 21 of 29. No touchdowns. Let me see what this says. Sorry, guys. He had a longest 35 and he had 1 rushing attempt for -1 yards. So that's the back end. And he was 13 of 18 with 2 touchdowns against Florida State. So my point is, Carson Beck is another quality quarterback. I've even seen, some early projections about him being the number 1 quarterback taken off the board in the NFL draft for the 2025 season. What's up, Brian? I appreciate you being here. Good morning, man. Appreciate you. So, okay, to recap, if you're just joining us, I appreciate it. If you want to become a member of the YouTube channel, $2.99 to, join the YouTube channel. I appreciate you guys for supporting me right here on Bama Football on YouTube. Thank you so much, Al Sanders. I appreciate you, man. Much love for you. You out in Georgia by way of Tuscaloosa, and I still got you on the Proverbs, man. Daily Proverbs, right? Because it makes a really good, it kind of like sets you on the right trajectory, right? So that's why I always get those workouts in, because like my spirituality comes at the back end when we have the circle of trust. And it's kind of where I find my spirituality is through those guys who are good men here in Tuscaloosa. But Beck, look, Okay, so in the beginning of the show, we talked about Dijon Lee, 5-star, going to announce on June 28th. And now we're talking about the quarterbacks that Alabama will face in the front end of the season. TJ Finley, tons of experience. Byron Brown, Alabama faced him last season. The guy was a headache. Third quarterback will be Tyler Van Dyke, and the fourth quarterback will be Carson Beck. Okay, so those are the quarterbacks that Alabama will face right out the jump. And let's see who the fifth quarterback will be. Who's that? Is that fifth game? That fifth? Oh my God! I'm gonna love this. Okay, Vanderbilt. You know who the fifth game is? Oh man, Diego Pavia. Oh, I'm gonna love talking about this, right? Let's see. Okay, hold on 1 second, because I believe it is Diego Pavia. Okay, football depth chart. And if you follow me, then you know why I'm gonna love talking about Diego. Okay, yeah. So Diego Pavia. Wow. We'll look at him when he was at New Mexico State this last year. So as you know, Diego Pavia was the quarterback at. We'll do it right here. My bad. Diego Pavia, Vanderbilt. Bring up his stats real quick. Okay, here we go. So Diego Pavia, quarterback at my alma mater, New Mexico State. Okay, this guy was a monster. Okay, so and a menace. Okay, so for New Mexico State, my alma mater had their best season ever last season. Okay, it didn't go the way at the end of they lost to Fresno State. This guy Diego Pavia, a lot going on here. Okay, he was a Volcano Vista, so that's in Albuquerque, New Mexico. The west side of Albuquerque has elite wrestling. He was an elite wrestler. New Mexico, the home school, did not offer him a scholarship, so he went to Las Cruces, New Mexico, which is in southern New Mexico, and they got him on the board, right? And he goes down to Las Cruces. And actually before that, I think he went to the New Mexico Military Institute and then came back to New Mexico State. Okay, so he wasn't like a highly rated guy. I don't even know if he was like a 3-star, but the guy came back and he was like, it was crazy the season that he had. And this is the quarterback for Vanderbilt. So what I'm saying is the first 5 quarterbacks that Alabama is going to be facing are all, a few of them are transfers, but they all have elite experience. Look at the awards. I'm telling you that this guy won in 2023. This is Diego Pavia. Okay, he was a 2023 Conference USA Player of the Year, 2023 Second Team All Conference USA, 2022 Quick Lamp MVP, 2023 Athens All Sport. But look at his stats last year. Crazy. The guy was crazy. Let's see if we can do it by game. Okay, here we go. Look at his yards. 240, 248, 317, 202, 155, 256, 286, 186, 220, 201, 268. And then rushing, 20 yards, 65 yards, 96 yards, 97, 115, 96, 6. The guy, like, he's a problem. Okay? I get it. Alabama is going to bury Vanderbilt. There's no denying that. But this guy will be the 5th quarterback that Alabama plays. That is wild, honestly. That is crazy to think about that, that Alabama will face those 5 first quarterbacks, and all of them have experience. But then it kind of tails off when you look at Alabama's remaining schedule, right? And the guys that will be on the schedule, kind of flips and flops. Interesting. Wow, I didn't even realize that. But, I think that, with Alabama's front end, it'll provide for that secondary to grow up fast, because those quarterbacks don't play. Yeah, wow, that's wild. What a lineup to start the season. And the head football coach for New Mexico State, NMSU football. Why is his name? 2022. No. What's his name? Not Tony Sanchez. What's his name? What was the New Mexico State? Why am I missing this? Jerry Kill. Yes. Jerry Kill. My goodness. He was like the guy, right? And that was the other thing, was New Mexico State beat Auburn too. No, Diego Pavia. Remember, he picked up that guy from Auburn and just buried him? This guy don't play. I'm serious. Anyways. Okay, so let me ask you this. Let's rank the quarterbacks really quick in terms of the most challenging quarterbacks that Alabama will. I'm laughing at the fact that Diego Pavia buried some dude from Auburn, and also laughing at myself because I couldn't remember the name of the New Mexico State coach last year. Jerry Kill. That guy is like living on. Remember, he would just show up like trucker's attire. He gave like 0 Fs. The dude, he's had like a couple of different heart attacks and all sorts of health issues. So yeah, and he's the coach now at Vanderbilt. Yes, and that's why Diego Pavia is at Vanderbilt as well. So in no way is Alabama going to lose to Vanderbilt, but this Diego Pavia is a menace. And Jerry Kill, man, he's a sneaky coach. He beat Auburn last year because Auburn didn't practice for New Mexico State. They were practicing for Alabama, who they also lost to. Okay, so ranking the quarterbacks, Jarvis has it like this: Carson Beck, Tyler Van Dyke, Byron Brown, TJ Finley. Yep, that's it. Yeah, that was quick. Byron Brown will definitely be a problem. TJ Finley will do something. I have no idea what he'll do. And then you have Diego Pavia, who will just be a problem. One more problem that you have to deal with. The good news is, in all of this, is that you have 2 weeks to prepare for Georgia. And let's talk about Alabama and Georgia right now, kind of as we round out this hour. So UGA versus Alabama, Winnipeg. So this is a good site to go to. I like to go to Winnpedia. It has like all the lists of the games. Okay, so this will be kind of our last segment that we talk about. Okay, and when you look to this, and I'll make it full screen so it enlarges a little bit, and I'll minimize this banner. Let's see if I can minimize. 1 sec. Talking Alabama versus Georgia. Okay, so these are the last several games that Alabama and Georgia have played each other, and it's really heated up. So mind you, I arrived in Tuscaloosa in 2016. Okay, so I arrived, and I really hadn't ever seen, Alabama and Georgia really go head to head. Okay, and I know it's like a long-standing rivalry game, but like in the last since I have been here, this has really gotten accelerated to where it's like the two biggest kings of college football. And a lot of that had to do with Kirby Smart going over there and what they've been able to do. Okay, so let's just rewind the last couple of seasons, and they've all been significant games. Okay, this will be a regular season game. The first time, since 2020, right, when the game was here in Tuscaloosa, that it's a regular season game. So 2023, last year, as you know, was the SEC championship. And what do we remember about that game? That Jalen Milroe was able to lead his Alabama Crimson Tide down the field to put away, at that point in time, the #1 ranked Georgia Bulldogs. Okay. Before that, it was for a national championship, and Georgia got the better of Alabama. Now, you could talk about a couple different reasons about that game, why you feel maybe Alabama lost that game, but Georgia wins under Kirby Smart. And I think when Coach Saban probably looks back on his career, he thinks about that one, of course, because he lost to Kirby Smart. But at the same point, Alabama wasn't healthy, but whatever. I mean, there was a better team, okay? Alabama has had the upper end on this, besides that game. They won in 2021, 41-24. 41-24, similar score in 2020. Everybody remembers the SEC title game, 35-28. That was crazy. That was probably one of the realest, like most emotional games that I had seen. And what you have right here is 2018. The first time that they played in the year, right? A different season, was when Tua came back, right? And Tua, he leads Alabama to a national title game, 2nd and 26. It was crazy. That was my first season covering Alabama, okay? Full-time season. And being able to see Alabama win a national championship was unbelievable, but to see how Alabama did it with Tua, And then 2018, that game was crazy. It was crazy for many different reasons, but the craziest reason was that Jalen Hurts came back to win the game when he could have left. Right? He could have left. He could have transferred. I mean, the transfer portal isn't as heavy as it is now, but he could have dipped out on his team. He could have done something else. He comes back and is able to help his team win. So, it's a long-standing series between these two teams, dating back to they played in 1895. But anyways, I mean, none of the games have been as meaningful as they've been since 2012. That was really the kickoff when they started the SEC championship. And I don't think anyone could imagine, what these teams would do, in the last, decade, right? Last, 5, 6 years, 7 years, how many times they played. Now, check this out. Stay with me here. There's a chance for everything to happen, right? That Alabama and Georgia could play 3 times. And you're like, what the hell are you talking about, Kyle? Well, they could very well play 3 times. And what I mean by this is they play in the season, right? 4th game of the season. And then let's just say, I mean, we've been looking at schedules for quite some time, that Alabama and Georgia are the number 1 and number 2 team in the SEC. There's no more East and West. Keep telling yourself that. That would be the 2nd time they play. Well, if they each make the SEC championship game and they're 1 and 2 teams in the SEC, wouldn't you think that they each make the playoffs? Well, one of them certainly will, because they have to win. And the other one, I would imagine, gets in the SEC tournament as well, or the College Football National Championship game. So depending on where they are on the bracket, they could once again play each other, which would be 3 times. Could you imagine if Alabama and Georgia play each other 3 times? Do I think it'll happen? I have no idea. Is there a chance? 100%. This could happen. It could happen. I don't know. Do I want to see it? Sure. I would love to see Alabama and Georgia play 3 times. I'd love it for the YouTube channel for sure. 100%. All right. Last thing I'll talk on is Coach Kalen DeBoer was at these spring media day, which takes place in Pensacola. And they have these springs. So reporters have opportunities to ask Coach Kalen DeBoer all sorts of different questions. Okay. And Charlie Potter, Bama Online, or Tony Tsoukalis, either one of those guys, they do a great job in terms of what Coach Kalen DeBoer said. These are the questions that Coach Kalen DeBoer was asked about. He was asked about if he prefers a 8 or 9 game conference schedule. I don't really care about that question. DeBoer was asked about ideal roster size a handful of times. He was asked about how many walk-ons he prefers, how many walk-ons there are. He was also asked if he has his thoughts on kind of an expanded playoff in a longer season and kind of how that will impact the team from a load management. I think that's an interesting question to think about. Again, it's rat poison because you have to get there in the first part. But, Alabama knows that it's going to make the playoffs. And one of the reasons that they know this is because they were redoing the field in spring to prep for even hosting. Did you remember this? The field kind of looked like shit for the spring game. Let's just call it what it was. Okay. But they were doing that because they were reseeding it to basically stretch out the quality of the turf to get to the playoff season. It's kind of an interesting move. Okay. He was also in how many games, if Alabama is able to make a run for the national have we determined how many games they'll play? What was it, like a 16-game season, 17-game season, something like that? He was also asked once again if you can operate safely if you just have 85 scholarship players. Lynn, get on in on that. What are your thoughts on that, Lynn? Did you hear that? DeBoer was asked if you can operate safely and effectively with just 85 scholarship players. Um, he was also asked about, let's see. And then he was asked about Texas and Steve Sarkisian and Quinn Ewers. And I don't know. There wasn't like, here's another one. DeBoer was asked on how he reflects on replacing Nick Saban on being Alabama's coach. So I don't know. The questions were kind of strange. And then once again, he was asked if he would change practice if there was 85 to 95 players. He was also asked again if he could do two spotting with 85 players. And then he was asked again about his reaction to switching up scholarship limits. Wild. Okay, so this is also new that Alabama will also now practice. And I talked about this in spring. I heard this from a professor. Alabama football will now practice in the morning. And this is something that, is new. I guess they're an afternoon type team. Now they'll be practicing in the morning. And someone said, and I don't know if this is true, but the way that the professor was telling me this is that since they are a morning team, like practicing in the morning, that a majority or like a great significance of the players will now have to be taking online only classes. And the professor was kind of, he was saying that, the online presence and being in class is a complete different experience. I don't know. You guys can talk about that, but they are practicing in the morning now. I don't know. What does it matter? I don't know if that's going to make such an impact. I think scholarship numbers will, going forward. But I'm also thinking like I'm waiting for all of this to kind of for the dust to settle, because I want to see also if the universities can start paying the players, and what will that do to collectives, and how will that impact walk-ons? How will that impact other sports? I don't know. There's so much to chew on all the time when you look to all of the world of college football. Lynn is saying, I have heard that coaches are pushing for 7 more spots. Huh, interesting. Yeah. The field looked rough, right, Patty? But I appreciate you guys. Thank you for sticking with me for about an hour right here on Bama Football on YouTube. I appreciate you guys. And all you guys that are members in the YouTube channel, thank you so much. If you want to become a YouTube fan funder and support me, this is literally how I get by, how I pay the bills. $2.99 goes a long way. And you guys can do that by hitting the join button. JS, thank you so much for being here. And I appreciate it. JS, this is the call in line. I don't have it open this morning. I had my points that I wanted to talk on. So when I open up the call in show, you'll see it at the banner, but I don't have the call in show open this morning. JS says it perfectly, kind of the end of the show. Wouldn't it be awesome if we run the table this year? Look, I don't know if any team is going to be able to run the table this year in SEC format of scheduling, but it is possible. And I think kind of getting back to Georgia and Alabama, that game isn't going to make or break Alabama, but I think it comes at the perfect point in time of the season, because if you lose that game to Georgia, you come back as a team. You fix whatever issues there were, and you head forward. Just kind of what happened to Alabama against Texas, right? They got punched in the mouth. Alabama could have just folded right then at that point in time. They could have looked at the receipts. They could have listened to all the shows that said that Nick Saban was done, that Coach Prime should be the coach. Remember all that stuff that was happening? They didn't. All they did was march forward, and they played some damn good football up until that Michigan game. If they beat Georgia, and they can do that if they lose to Georgia. If they beat Georgia, and if they beat Western Kentucky, and they beat South Florida, and they beat Wisconsin, and they come back and they beat Georgia, this team will gain so much momentum. The stadium will explode. Right? Compound on that what's happening with basketball, compound that on what's happening with softball, compound that on what's happening on baseball. It's a great time to be an Alabama Crimson Tide football fan, an alumni, because we didn't even talk about basketball today. And I think today we'll be finding out what Mark Sears is going to do. I think he has up until 10:59 p.m. tonight to decide what he's going to do. So maybe hit the subscribe button. So when we find out what's going to happen, Chris, what's up, man? I know you're joining the show on the back end. We've been on for an hour. I appreciate you. I got so with my schedule now, I operate a lot based on my kids. I always have my kids. I have full custody of my children. So if I do a morning show, You know, they're obviously not in school, so I don't gotta get Lacey out of the bus stop. I wake up early anyways. I wake up at 4:45 a.m. to work out, so I might start the show earlier. Plus, the space is crowded, so you know, I like to get on earlier and kind of look at the day's events. So we're watching Mark Sears today, and any other news that happened. So I appreciate you. Let's see what Lynn has to say before we go. Lynn is saying, I'm not a fan of the morning practices. See, that's what the professor was saying as well. I always like evening practices. The kids have to focus during the heat of the day. We play a lot of 3:30 games this year. Interesting. Huh. Yeah. I'm curious to see kind of the feedback more on kind of the day and night practices. Chris, I appreciate you. You, of course, watch the replay. So a couple things before I go that we're watching. Okay. Mark Sears, Jaron Stevenson, those guys have up until, you know, I don't know, 10 p.m. tonight to decide what they're going to do. June 28th is when Dijon Lee will decide what he's going to do. Kevin, I see you coming in. You can watch the replay. I appreciate you, man. Man, you're at the beach house in Sunset Beach, man. Enjoy yourself, man. Live your life. Enjoy yourself. I appreciate you guys being here. You guys have a beautiful day. It is Wednesday, May 29th. Absolutely gorgeous out here in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. As news happens, I'll be here. I'll be live, and I got you covered right here on Bama Football on YouTube. And please provide. So the coaches, they now work for Ty Hayes. So just me on the channel. So you guys can understand all those dynamics, you know, that happened. And I'm not going to rehash any of that stuff because it was a bumpy last 2 months. But all I'm doing is going forward because all I can do is control myself and the output that I do. So got respect for a ton of people in the industry, but I am just marching on forward. And I love you guys. And thank you so much. So you just got me, Kyle Anderson, Bama Football on YouTube. Back to nitty gritty, back to brick by brick. You know, I'm the one who started it all. I'm the guy who started everything. And there you could look, I could do a coaching tree sometime of all the people that have started YouTube channels that have worked for me. That's why it's sometimes hard to do YouTube channels because everybody learns from me and then they start their own channel, right? Think about it. All the Bama Online guys, say what you want. You guys learn from me, right? I used to work for On3, okay? You guys learned the Bama stuff, right? You could look to all these new organizations that started up. Mick Gillespie, who do you think taught him the Collins show? Oh, you know, so all those guys work. So it's a space. They get it, you know. So there's a lot of people that can do it, but I don't know if they can do it like me. Kyle Henderson, Bama Football on YouTube. I love you guys, and I'll catch up soon right here on Bama Football on YouTube. Peace.